Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not very technical guy. My background is police and military reserve officers, as already was mentioned. And I have to be about 15 years between kind of police officers and IT specialists who often didn't respect each other or didn't understand at least each other. And I had to work as an intermediator. But it helps or leads me close to the various security governance issues, or I had to act sometimes as a security manager in those forces. But now, last half a year, I work as a commander of a gang, we can say. Please raise the hands who are members of our gang. Not very many. Jan was also one of us. Estonian society is not very big, and also the same regarding the cybersecurity officials. But okay, I will move forward to my presentation. I would like to cover the topics that my point of view of the current situation. I will not touch the technical topics very deeply. Then, secondly, about our cyber defense unit, who we are and what we do, very briefly. Then I move forward about cyber defense exercises, why to exercise, and in which environment or playground. It's by our own practice or our best practice to do it. And finally, I hope that my conclusions will be suitable also for your meaning or understanding. We'll see, and I will be available for the further questions and discussion. About situation. Cyber is quite new domain in the traditional military service or military protection, but not only. Cyber information technology computers, this is like a tool. It contains everywhere, as we already know, and we are very highly dependent on it. In the classic military defense, now defined officially in the doctrines, also cyber as a fifth new domain, next to the ground, sea, air, space, and now we have cyber warfare, cyber command in big countries. But Estonia is not very military country. Okay, our military is quite well, but size is not very big. Cyber security is also business of civil world. And it's quite hard now to make the difference or find a gap where it stops the national military defense and begins internal security. Those sectors are also going to be called domains. All those have their own tasks and opportunities and duties regarding cybersecurity. I know that the audience here are mostly related to the technical IT people and the managers, the business managers, that you belong probably to this yellow block, but not only. Incidents happen. This is common. We often see it, we can read it from the newspapers. The problem is that often the incidents may rise high enough that they may reach level of disaster. It's not exotic anymore. It had happened. We have some own incidents in Estonia. Emergency is that we have experienced here, but not, luckily not very widely. I hope we will never reach the highest level, the war condition, but we need to prepare. We must be able, you see this advertisement, ByteLife is very ambitious. They are promising that we cover force majeure. I agreed. We also must prepare for force majeure, how we can proceed our life. And often, if we start investigate an incident, then it might find out that this escalates much higher. Most of them are related to the crime business, kind of crime matters, and police needs to deal with them because of illegal profit. But it's not exotic anymore that we can see and experience cyber-related national security matters, activities of hostile intelligence services of some of countries. And all of them are some way specific. It's common sentence in Latin. If you want peace, you need to prepare for wartime. How to prepare? Of course, something will happen if we will do nothing and simply will wait until this situation happens. But for being efficient, for guaranteeing victory, we have to learn. We have to exercise, not only learn at the classrooms, and we have to test about the outcome of our learning process. Just all those are necessary for being able to survive whatever kind of severity level of incident. And that is one reason why our unit was established within the Defense League. Learning is really important. Probably some of you have seen this photo before. Georgian loses the war with Russia. And many reasons were related to that they didn't have proper experience. They didn't train or exercise good enough. It's okay, it's after the incident, after the war, it's very easy to explain and give and share opinions. But even the Russian forces, they added this sentence to the wall of a military basis. Dear friends, Georgians, please learn the art of war seriously. And I think that we should do the same in the cyber world. About our unit. Estonian Defense League is part of our defense forces, but not only. It's a voluntary organization, paramilitary. Many of our people are members of them, not only men and soldiers, but also some sub-organization for young people and some ladies. The amount of our members is about 1.7% of population. It's quite big, but regarding situation that's going right now next to us around our country, we probably should prepare more. Our cyber defense unit is part of Defense League, and also it's some way paramilitary, but not only. We have specific tasks. We really have tasks to provide some exercises, to find some solutions. We are amateurs. Not all, of course. Many of us are working in the regulatory duty position also as IT specialist or security specialist, but often as many people become to us just for getting additional knowledge to becoming a security expert. And this is a good opportunity supported by the Estonian state. And we are quite similar. About 1.1% of IT experts of Estonian society. It's supported, the figures are supporting the analysis, are members of our unit. And legally, I said that we are gang. Okay, we are not gang. We must follow the rules. We must act only the way that fits the legislation, the legal framework. And this is the most important part of this legal act, that Defense League might be invited or involved during cyber incident, but only under the direction of a competent authority, that we will never act independently as a military force. This is like a roof organization that collects the interested people together and helps to develop their skills. Cybersecurity has a quite wide playground, both the military sector and also civil sector. And here you can see some of them who had clear responsibilities regarding cybersecurity, or they are responsible for fighting cybercrime, or even national security, or even some military forces. But our unit is a partner for Estonian Information Systems Authority. We are preparing our people as a reserve if they really need help and some additional manpower. And one way to become the partner is exercising together. Now I will proceed the topic of different type of exercises that we have experienced and done. Of course, It's always possible to create various similar classifications. How do you define what is the cyber exercise? What it can be, how it's built up, or what is the contents. But the last presenter also mentioned that very important part now is to deal with the managers, to the top level people who are making decisions. They must be aware about the cyber threats. They must be able to think and solve the cases when they will happen. But, otherwise, we are not able to fight or solve the crisis or disaster situations in the cyber world. And in general, we differ 5 types of cyber defense exercises. Firstly, simulations. No equipment often, no technology at all, but or in tabletop or other type of functional exercises when the involved people are sitting behind the desk and playing with the cards, playing with the situation changes. It's almost only opportunity to involve top-level management. Then second, technical. During investigations, we often need to provide some kind of IT forensic actions. But for providing it, you must be prepared, you must learn. And that's why it's important to exchange intelligence, exchange the best practice or knowledge about discovered malware, for example, or how to process big amounts of data. And this type of exercises we can call post-mortem. Incident had already happened. We have some evidence, we have some computers left that keep some kind of traces, possible or happened attack. And now we have to find it out using powerful and very complicated tools. Third type, also technical, is most interesting for you probably, for IT people, is real-time exercise. One team is protecting a live system. It might be a real one, it might be simulated or virtual in lab environment. And the other team is attacking. And they are like a competing who will be stronger, or the defenders or the attackers. Quite similar to this is a live pen test, but it of course contains more risks, and I will not cover this topic very deeply. Fourth, this type of exercise is already full scale, contains all the parts, decision-making level, public relations, for example, and also technical part of them. This is a way to test our procedures. Do they work really well or not? In Estonian society, I understand that the longest experience providing such kind of exercises has the banking industry. Estonian public sector started it a little bit later. But because we know mostly each other, we can do it together and results will be quite good. And the last one is often used like initial, like in Army. Army is organizing every year annually several types of military maneuvers. But now, because their command and control structures also have kind of cyber component, computers, communication systems, they also have to be tested, and also the procedures, the measures of protection of those systems. And for beginning, it was a good idea to implement small, maybe not very complicated cyber component to this ordinary military maneuver, just to start the people thinking in the right way. The military officers, top-level officers, have to think about the risks during the battle, that our enemy also might have kind of cyber weapons and tries to influence our command and control systems. Why to exercise? The reasons. As a police officer, I know that there is no peacetime in the cyber world. I already mentioned the hostile intelligence services. Unfortunately, we also have facts that they are acting here in our territory, in our Baltic region. And if we don't have the peace, we have to fight even today. For fighting successfully, we must train. The second, probably the most important part, is that human being or human component is the weakest part of any work procedure or even information technology system. Because we can strong very thick and high walls, like was the picture about the Troy as a technical system. But if a user who has very low level of awareness is making some mistakes, then it might be completely useless. During the exercises, our goal is to develop our skills, capabilities to act, and not only independently, every specialist as their own, but as a team together. And teamwork does not appear simply. It needs practice. One target group is, of course, technical experts, but several times mentioned management decisions. If we have very good technical experts, but not very smart managers, and then it's quite hard to implement efficient security. It's close to the management, but a little bit different is political level. If we talk about our governmental level and the legislation, for example, it's quite hard to convince them during explanations or publishing kind of articles or even making kind of demos. But if you put them behind the desk and not a force, but invite to play, what you will do if in our country we will have such kind of disasters that had kind of cyber component. And this really helps to start thinking. We have one experience, I will show another slide about it, that first initial reaction on it, probably will not be very positive because it's disturbing what you are talking about, it's not possible, I can't believe that it will happen, this is kind of not very smart idea from the IT people, they are maybe too skeptic. But after this exercise, they have some time for thinking over. They have to feel something, or they feel that they were involved during a decision-making process. And after it, understand that, yes, we didn't know many important facts. And that's the reason why we can say also. And if we are preparing a training extremely for the managers or government, then it's very critical component that it must be very realistic. If we do some kind of theoretical training about the theoretical risks that are not likely to happen in our country, then interest will be low. The result will be not so good. But if we manage during the planning and preparation to reach the right level that fits to the current reality in our country, then the result might be very useful. Again, the same pictures about cybersecurity and sectors. I was just discussing and talking about the collaboration. Look at them, how many different players are on this playground who must cooperate, who must be able to trust each other, because handling over intelligence or information about happened incident, it's not so easy if you don't trust your partner. Most of the quite big part is here, internet service providers and vital service providers. We can draw similar size of the map or drawing if I want to show you the list of them. And we are looking at the opportunities how to involve more and more different partners, potential partners, for solving future crises, future emergency situations. 3 examples about exercises that we have done, or we were participating with our unit, or we were as an organizer. The first example was most complicated that I have experienced in this cyber defense unit. It was tabletop exercise for Estonian national government and also for the Estonian National Crisis Committee. We prepared a scenario. We spent about half a year for thinking about the scenario that to reach the reality level, what might happen. The problem, first problem that we met there was that outcome of our analysis is sensitive. We can't publish it. We find out some weak points. Okay, now I know that most of those weak points is now fixed, but still. We tried to organize the exercise for government, but our first try was not very successful because we, as a computer security enthusiasts and specialists, we wanted to do it too technically. But what is the right level for government, for ministers? This kind of overall picture, overall situation. What kind of decisions must be made by government? It was quite easy to develop the scenario to the service provider, for example. Disaster situation for service provider, but government. Between the providers and government, I will turn back, are so many different state institutions who are also responsible to solving crisis and making decisions. But those half a year were successful, and now I remember that we get both the negative and positive approach or feedback, and we will try it after new elections with the new government. We simply are not able to do it for current government because elections are quite too close, and this preparation period is really big. But this type of exercise doesn't need to use huge amounts of technology. It's not necessary to have a cyber lab environment for it. But this is only one part. Second, our Cyber Defense League, some of members of our unit have been participating on this annual and quite complicated technical exercise called Locked Shields, organized by NATO's Center of Excellence about cybersecurity. If you see the current situation, it was real time. Some teams were defending systems. Every team had their own world, micro world in lab environment, and the red teams are continuously attacking them. It lasts, I don't remember exactly, it lasts only one very, very long day, but preparations for it is the same, half a year. And it's quite dangerous. It's, if you put similar system that will be attacked during exercise, so somewhere on the public internet, then the risk is that it might affect to the another world, another part of internet. That's why such type of exercises is better to organize in closed, isolated environment. One more classification or description of exercises. I would like to ask, how many of you have been organizing kind of technical cyber defense exercises? Please raise the hand. Only one, two. But kind of tabletop exercises that not related to the equipment, but more management. The same, not very many. I hope you find out opportunities to do at your companies or at your offices the same, because one result that we discovered after the spring storm exercise, we made, I'll put it back, this exercise. We started, the first step after the development of scenarios was educating end users. We provided a series, a couple of lessons to the different units and explained what kind of attacks is likely to be happen and what they have to do, how they could detect potential attack. The result was very positive, that educated people were smart, and we had quite a few only successful attacks. Mostly the people detected them and reported, as was described in the procedure documents. But this one, this slide, it will be available even after this conference, probably next to the another presentations. But we try to describe different characteristics of cyber defense exercises. Tabletop is the easiest one, risk is low, but if we are doing something full-scale, real-time, complex exercise, then nobody knows. It's better to do it in isolated environment. Even during this spring storm exercise, we had a situation that was some kind of social engineering and phishing websites were used, and some very enthusiastic people sent this information outside of the training area to the Facebook. And many people from the ordinary public internet started to click onto the links that lead to this not very good site. All those exercises are different, but I'm quite sure that depending on the target group, we need all of them. And if you begin the easiest one, simplest one, like a tabletop, then finally, after 5 or 10 years, we go together. We are right now collaborating at the level of Baltic states also regarding military for organizing some kind of cyber exercises. Starting with a simple one, but at the end of some developed period, it's really possible to organize kind of full-scale exercises for people, for human factor, and also for equipment. What kind of environment? I try to tie now my presentation to the ByteLife topics and kind of virtual computing. What kind of environment must be used for preparing and providing and running cyber exercises? Again, we can define differently, but this is one example. What kind of steps must be done during an exercise? Exercise is not that we simply look at our schedule, look at the free date, let's go together, switch on the computers and play. Okay, yeah, we can do something, but the result will be not clear. The amount of benefit will be very low. Then the bigger will be exercise, or then higher is the level of involved players, then more complicated is the process. And for example, if we try to do this exercise for government, a very critical part was this establishing political will. Why do we need to spend our office day for some kind of stupid tests? For the technical people, probably this is not the problem. It happened quite fastly. But in general, all those steps must be done. What do you think? What will happen if we miss this last one? Or even 2 of those at the end? What is the result if we will not do it? Yeah, we don't know what we have learned. And all the rest will be useless if we miss it. Okay, then forward. This is a kind of diagram, how it looks in time. It's not an easy task. If you are providing preparing a technical task, then you must have about 2 or 3 times more organizers than the players. But this is our experience. If you are interested in Estonia to do kind of exercise, to organize kind of exercise at your own office or company, then we are happy to share our experience on it. And this is also, I added this slide that's quite common in the cyber defense exercises, the different teams. At the beginning, we were only do one. Blue as defenders, red as attackers. But for creating an environment on the targets, we definitely need the others one. The green team who establishes the infrastructure, the computers where to play. White team who are the political level or organizational level, granting the opportunity to run this exercise at all. And the same sentence. All those 4, red, white, green, and yellow, the number of people is almost the same as the players. What does it mean? How does look it if you organize a complex technical or exercise? You must take into consideration all those factors. This environment must be very flexible. Technically, it's possible to organize a technical exercise on the physical computers. But if every team needs a separate system, then the amount of equipment will be huge. It's not so easy to find 200 identical identical computers and put on the same building and install all the necessary software. There is very good opportunity to use virtual environments because of flexibility, scalability, and also modularity. Then higher will be interest, then you simply can add more power. The third component, often during exercise something happens and you need to restore it very quickly. Reverting snapshot, it takes maybe seconds. Reinstalling a kind of test server, it takes hours. It means that almost no way to avoid or to avoid virtual environments and use physical computers, except only some specific cases. We know that exists some very clever type of malware that are not able to analyze on the virtual environment. They are testing, is it a real system or not? But this is a special condition, special situation. If you are organizing exercise where you have multinational level partners and players from different countries or even from different companies at your own country, then it's impossible to put them into one building because it's too many logistic issues. It's better to organize the environment and provide remote access. And about this isolation, we already discussed that if you are touching kind of malware that's able to spread, then it's better to avoid direct connections to the internet. What we need, what kind of system, if we are preparing technical exercise which has a technical component. It's not only targets and attacking and defenders workstation, but also some backstage logistics, like we need to have a kind of communications between the player. We have to have kind of scoring and reporting systems for giving immediate feedback to the players or trainees. Not all the exercises are competitions, but some of them are. If the exercise is quite big, then it's important to have the overall picture, what's going on, what's the situation. It's necessary for the organizers. And of course, there must be available special places for dangerous files. Technically, it's possible to organize them on the physical devices, but also in virtual one. But example, the same, Locked Shields last year. There was 10 teams from 10 different countries. Every team has their own set of computer systems. It was kind of unclassified and kind of external organization network that they should defend. But in general, there was 120 players and more than 400 devices. I mean computers, network devices in this virtual environment. Is it possible to create it physically? Yes, it is, but it will be very expensive probably. But in this virtual lab environment, it was quite easy. You can work out one example and then make several clones for it. Okay, probably virtual computing, this you know 10 times more about it than me. But what might be the conclusions? I present my point of view as security managers. One political background is that Estonia has experienced these exercises. We have organized some of them, and now we feel strong enough to provide it to the other states. It means that we need a little bit bigger playground or that has more computing power. It was declared to the NATO forces that Estonia is offering facilities to organize such trainings. But last slide. This playground or this virtual environment for providing exercise, it's not the technical. The key is not the technical equipment. This is commercial. Everyone can buy it, both the kind of servers and the software from ByteLife, for example. But it will not work without the two critical components. One of them is the best practice and the experience about exercises. If you buy the servers and install them and make them available, then the exercises will not happen very well, because it needs years of working preparation. Yes, we have done many mistakes, but now we know how to avoid them. Many of them are related to the design of this object, but my opinion is that most complicated part is organizing the logistics, even in virtual environment, that huge number of players are available to connect to the systems and do simultaneously very many different things and activities. This cyber range that we have in Estonia, we share it between Estonian Defense Forces and also our Defense League. It's not the only one. Academic sector has similar solutions. Many big companies, I think probably every bank has similar technological systems, but this is for their business. And in business environment, it's not a good idea to play such dangerous games. Our cyber range in Estonia, it's clearly must be available for military people, for military organizations, but not only. Also, we offer that into other internal security institutions. They may organize kind of IT forensic exercises there. And also, it's good opportunity for vital service providers in Estonia. In general, this is all from my side. If any questions, then I'm ready to answer. I hope I'm able to find the right answer.
There must be questions obviously to this topic.
Questions appear usually if you start to do something similar. Because at the beginning it's quite simple. Oh, let's do it. Let's do nice, fun.
But let's ask the audience then how many of you, I'm not sure how technical you are in this room, but would be interested to take part, if it would be possible, or your teams, to this kind of exercises? So choose 3, 5, 10, 10%, 15, 20, 30%.
Yeah, because this offer keeps you kind of advantage that you don't need to think about those parts. We can share our experience. Okay, maybe it's not very good, but together we can become more smarter and more stronger later. On the drawing there was icon of vital services. Our goal is to establish a partnership with the different vital services, vital service providers in combination with the National Information Systems Authority, just to start organizing specific events. No, SCADA is quite important right now. This Information Systems Authority is working very well, but we have many other sectors not touched yet.
Do you have any feedback? I mean, mostly in those exercises, the blue teams are professionals, so they are not probably, I'm not sure, but I assume that they are professionals and they are not first time in this kind of events. But have you got any feedback from the people who are not perhaps professional, being part in that defense team, thinking that they are pretty good ones, and going through, what is their reaction?
Yes, actually in the technical exercises, we must have very professional red team. If we don't, then the game will be not so interesting. But blue teams, it's a good place to train, to make the mistakes, to exercise and become stronger. You don't need to be a high-level specialist to join such technical games. But it's possible to use this for rising for your own skills. And okay, of course, one good format is International Cyber Defense Workshop provided by United States Navy, ICDW. This exercise has two stages. First stage is a week of lessons. You can watch online lessons, read some additional documents, instructions, and finally 2 days of online exercises in virtual environment. It's a complex. It's available for free for the public sector. And of course, it's sponsored by the state taxpayers, and it will be related to the vital service providers. Then I think it's also possible to organize for free, except every partner should pay their own logistics.
Still no questions, so we have one more. So, what do you think the experience that people get from those kind of exercises, or the most valuable lessons is? Today we talked about technology, decision making, communication. What they get, is it technology or from soft side, or?
Every target group usually get a little bit different experience. I am told about the government level, for example. They could get some additional knowledge that physical world and cyber world are related. And one incident in the network systems might affect, for example, energetic power supply networks, and also very hard influence to the typical world. Technical specialists. It depends on their preliminary level, what they had. But, for example, one interesting outcome about Estonian cybersecurity communities, what do you think? What kind of specialist is most deficit in our country? What kind of knowledge of computing is not well supported? Maybe the question is not properly formed, but during this locked shields exercise, the people find out that there is a lack of Windows, Microsoft platform specialists in our country, because Windows is not sexy. Microsoft is not sexy. Everybody wants to learn the Linux, Unix-based systems. But in reality, what kind of systems we have? If we need to protect our systems, then we must know them. And one gap of skills that we are going to solve at our own unit is the level of skills about Windows servers administration, for example. We can't ignore it. If you live in this country using these systems, you must know those systems.
And we got the one last question now from the audience.
So can you tell us more about the PR and public communication side of the work you're doing?
Yeah, this is a good question. If you are already taking or preparing a complex exercise that contains also the management level and has multiple partners, such kind of incidents that you are simulating during exercise, they probably are visible also to the public people, to the inhabitants. And also, it's not so easy to explain and send the messages, the proper messages, what had happened, what we are doing, are we able to solve the crisis or not, and this must be also trained. It was also implemented to this locked shields exercise, because the fourth power of society, the journalists, they are asking very sharp questions. And also specialists need to be trained during crisis situations. It's definitely present, this branch of work.
All right, so thank you very, very much indeed for this journey.
Welcome.